We wanted to start early for Mayor Bushinsky because he says they always start late. So new rules is mayor's retired, so he can be on time. We'll call a roll call, please.
We have Jeremy Schuler for Rick Bigwood. Is he on the line? Move on to Bajensky.
Here.
Okay, Anderson. Yes. Or Jeff Brecker. Carlsrud.
Here.
Dardis.
Here.
Erdman.
Here.
Idso.
Here.
Mahoney.
Here.
Meyer.
Here.
Morlock. Here. Nielsen. Schmaltz.
Here.
And Schmidt.
Here. Thank you for all following chairs today. It's kind of like musical chairs, so you're all in different places, so I'm going to get a little confused once in a while, I think, but I think we'll do okay. Is there a motion to approve the ordered agenda? So moved. Is there a second?
Second, Schmidt.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carried.
Who made the motion?
Pardon?
Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the May 28, 2026 meeting?
Also move.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Well, we're going to have a new event here today. Spencer Halverson is going to start this meeting, and we're going to see how it works when we have somebody who's running our program. But Spencer's done a good job and got the agendas out. I think you all saw that and got the materials you wanted. And I'm really impressed that everybody showed up in person today, so that's really fantastic. Spencer, it's your game here.
All right. Chair Mahoney, members of the authority, as you can see on the agenda, we've got them laid out here with all the staff reports linked. One thing I'll just note on the agenda is these informational items on the bottom. These are standard items that are included usually in every agenda. Sometimes they're not always briefed in detail or action items required. So those are there for your information. If you do have questions, whether it's the financial stuff, it's probably best to be brought up when Mary's up here, and then the biennium work plans and the program schedule. If you do end up having questions on that, when Kip is up here is probably the best opportunity. So those are there for your information. And I will move into quick director's report. So just as a quick announcement so everybody is aware, we've got 6 mayors here on the authority, and 4 of them, since the last meeting there was elections, 4 of them did not seek re-election for mayor and have been asked to continue by their respective communities to stay on the authority, of which as you can see, Chair Mahoney, Director Dardis, Director Carlsrud, and Director Meyer. I can just, speaking for myself as a new executive director, to have that continuity on the board is just really welcomed and has really helped me over the last month as we've tried to get the business of LAWA moving forward. When you guys were when you guys were planning to advertise for this executive director position, Maureen had kind of gone through a lot of slides of, okay, this is what LAWA's leadership responsibilities look like. This is what Garrison Diversion's leadership responsibilities look like. And when we get this executive director, these are the things we'd like to see Garrison continue doing. These are the things that we'd like to see LAWA begin doing. And through the first couple of weeks, just working through things, this is kind of what we've come to a mutual understanding between Garrison and LAWA on how we're going to be working collaboratively on a day-to-day basis. So myself, on behalf of LAWA, will be creating the agendas, the TAC agendas, as well as organizing the packets for those 3 meetings. We're going to be sharing in a lot of the communication pieces like the website maintenance and information updating, social media, conference attendance. And then just for logistics sake, and you'll see at a future agenda item regarding banking and authorized agents, that we're going to probably end up sharing more responsibility on the paying of the bills from LAWA's perspective, just for efficiency's sake, and instead of mailing checks back and forth for signature, just try and expedite those processes. And then everything on the right-hand side, Garrison Diversion would continue doing. I would just reinforce that we did have a good collaborative discussion with Garrison Diversion staff, and we are all aligned on that. So if you're ever wondering who's doing what, I would just ask that you refer to the table.
Just a minute, Spencer.
Yeah.
Is there any questions by any members on this? Tom, you and I had talked about Garrison continuing in many roles. Is this what feels comfortable to everybody and what we would expect? Okay.
And I would just say on the left-hand side of it, I think one of the end goals is to get LAWA communicating with itself, maybe better than it was in the past. And I think this is a good way to get that ball rolling over the next 9 months until we get through the end of the legislative session and we can reevaluate all this at that time. So I would say when I first got here, it was pretty clear that there was two big priorities that you guys had. It was user engagement and getting progress on the various agreements that are in the works. And so I think it's really important as executive director you take the mode of work, by your board leadership. And one thing I know about Chair Mahoney and Vice Chair Boczynski is that they're all gas, no brakes. And so we've been running pretty hard. And so as you can see, we've been trying to get out in person to as many of the users and the MOC signers as we could, hit 14 of 23 MOC signers, and then all 13 of 13 board members. All of them were in person other than McLean, Sheridan, and Northeast Rural Water District were virtual meetings. And when we went and we talked with the board members and the MOC signers, really I would bucket the feedback into 4 buckets, okay? Upcoming costs and projections. I think everybody is anxious and excited to see what the new cost projections are. And there was a commitment that, hey, this first round of introductions was more an introductory nature, and getting to know you and giving an update as to where things stand, and that we would be coming back with some contingency of the consultant team with the updated financial information so that everybody can be informed as to what that is currently and what it's looking like moving forward, so everybody can make a good educated decision for their district and community. A lot of conversations surrounded the water treatment capabilities. Obviously, this project is for supplemental water supply and economic development, with the cities of Valley City, Grafton, Grand Forks, and Fargo being the ones that predominantly use their water supply from surface water. Those would be the main users for the supplemental water supply, but mostly everybody else is there for that economic development opportunity. And so really, at the end of the day, what branch pipelines look like long-term is heavily influencing their policy decision-making, and obviously the state's conversation regarding cost share for the branch pipelines. I think there's a desire to see that at the 75-25, state's talking about the 50-50, and so those are the things that are at the front of everybody's mind from when we were out there talking with you all. Is there anything that you guys want to talk about in addition? That was the feedback from when we went and met with you guys, Chair Mahoney?
Any questions?
And I would say that the second main priority was, hey, we need to get some progress on these agreements that are in the works. And so here's a table just trying to show you as to where things stand with each of the agreements. So what I'm calling the water supply agreement is the agreement between Garrison Diversion currently and Lake Agassiz Water Authority, which is for the delivery of water from the McCluskey Canal to the Cheyenne River outfall. That is in draft form, I would say not for public consumption right now. With LAWA, Mr. Shockley's been working hard on that. Where we kind of stand right now is obviously there's a resolution later on in the agenda, and governance has been a big conversation as to where things are going with that. And right now, just for cost incurring sake, I think right now we're at a press pause moment with that until we really figure out who the counterparty to the agreement needs to be, at which point we can run full steam ahead on that. The water distribution agreement, this is the agreement between LAWA and the project participants. The city of Fargo and their third-party attorney created the very first draft, sent it over to the Grand Forks, and Grand Forks' third-party attorneys, they have since sent their comments back, and Mr. Grubb and I and Ian from Fargo have probably spent about 4 hours with Mr. Dingus with Fargo going through the agreements. We have a meeting literally later today, so our goal is to get those responses back to the Grand Forks team and have further dialogue on that. I think one thing to also understand is there's numerous exhibits to that agreement, which is going to be a big undertaking, and the details in those exhibits are going to be very important. So we are moving ahead, but there is still a lot of work to do on that, I would say. Then the other one is the Thompson Aquifer permit, which is the agreement between LAWA, State Water Commission, DWR, and the TA rights holders. DWR did send a draft response on the agreement to the users, and basically, and the TA rights holders and DWR are collaboratively reviewing that right now. So that's where those agreements stand right now. And then just meetings that are coming up to have on the radar. On August 12th, we're going to have a special meeting, just a virtual meeting to review bids that are going to be open later today so that LAWA can provide feedback and direction. And then the State Water Commission is in Max on August 18th, and then Water Topics is September 17th. So that is what we have for Director's Report. Chair Mahoney, if I would stand for any questions, if you have any at this time.
Any questions by any members?
I do. On the agreements.
Yes.
Are the exhibits for the water distribution, is one of those exhibits the water supply agreement? Will the water supply agreement hold up the distribution agreement?
I would need to lean on the attorney group here, as I'm trying to go through,
Katie can answer.
yeah.
There are definitely things from the water supply agreement that will flow into the water distribution agreement, so there will be a connection between the two.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Very good.
Thank you.
Financial report, Mary Marie.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Board of Directors. I will see if I know how to do this here. Yes, okay. So this is Lake Agassiz financial report, your analysis of budget statement. So for 2026, your income budget was $544,940, and you've actually received $547,540, so actually a little bit over budget in income, which is good. For the expenses, your expense budget for the year was $543,788, and you've actually expended $179,951 as of the end of June, and you'll see where all of the payments were at. So at the beginning of the year, your beginning bank balance was $72,062. Income received was $547,540. Take out the bank fees, total funds available for the year to date was $619,295. And then you'll see all the bills that have been paid, and the ending bank balance on June 30th was $439,343. And then also any checks that have been written since your last meeting is what we always highlight in yellow there. So I would sure answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions? Do we need action, a motion?
Motion, please.
Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Schuler? Buchinsky?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Karlsruhe?
Yes.
Dardis?
Yes.
Erdman?
Yes.
Idzo?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Yes.
Meyer?
Yes.
Morlock?
Yes.
Nielsen?
Yes.
Schmaltz?
Yes.
And Schmidt.
Yes.
Motion's carried.
You got a delay on that one.
That concludes my report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Department of Water Resources report, Reese Haas. Is he on?
Yes, I am. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the authority. My report for you today here, I'm just going to share my screen real quick. All right. Well, good morning, members of the Lake Agassiz Water Authority. For the record, Reese Haas, Director of Department of Water Resources, here today to provide our update to you. I'll start with our long-term budget outlook. You may already be familiar with this, but something we are very much focused on at the Department of Water Resources, knowing that our budget is 100% driven by our state's oil and gas industry, and more specifically, our extraction tax revenue. And because we only receive extraction revenue, we do not receive revenues from other sources. And in North Dakota, we have a tax policy called our stripper well tax policy. So as oil and gas wells age, they are exempt from paying extraction tax. What we're showing here on the left-hand side is the effective extraction tax rate adjusted for these tax exemptions over time. As you can see, long-term declines there. And then shown on the right-hand side of this slide shows how it translates into our budget and dollars that we have available for water project funding going forward. This is from the North Dakota legislative forecast projected out through the end of the next decade. As you can see here, what the legislature had forecasted is that we would have just under 360 million next biennium, and then from then on out, continuing to see further declines in our revenues going forward. Major topic of discussion last legislative session also played into 2 legislative action items, which of course are very relevant to the work that you all do as well. We have our cost share study and our regional governance and finance studies, both directed in our budget bill last session, really with that focus on long-term sustainability. First off, on the cost share side, does our cost share policy adequately address our anticipated funding needs through the end of the next decade? And if not, what recommendations are there for adjusting our cost share policy, specifically with that revenue shortfall in mind, and also with a focus on deferred maintenance and replacement costs? And then, of course, tied at the hip to that as well is the study for regional governance and finance, looking at the Southwest Pipeline Project, NAWS, and Red River Valley Water Supply Project, looking at their governance models. Are their governance models efficient? Are they sufficient? And looking at the long-term financial models of those systems as well. Are the financial models sustainable in the long term in the context of long-term funding declines? So of course, those 2 studies have been completed this interim. We hired Deloitte Consulting to complete both studies. Since that time as well, we have updated our 2027 draft water development plan. So moving across the state, interviewing political subdivisions, interviewing stakeholders, completing an inventory of all reasonably expected water projects that are expected to come before us in the next decade. What we're showing here is 648 eligible projects over the next decade, 3.9 billion in total requests of the state for funding those projects. And specifically for next biennium, 1.5 billion in asks in funding of the state for next biennium for water needs, when we have less than 360 million in the legislative forecast. So a lot of work on our part. And then looking at that long-term 3.9 billion over the next decade, knowing that we will not have the revenues to cover that, knowing that we have the extraction tax exemptions, and our Bakken is maturing. We're not expecting any increases in production. In spite of recent oil price volatility, we still have the extraction tax exemptions, showing that we will have a long-term decline in revenues over that same time period. What Deloitte found in the cost share side of things, our funding risk that was raised in the last legislative session is valid. And in fact, in the near term, our shortfall is much larger than we had anticipated. 2.1 billion in near-term shortfall and 1.7 billion in longer-term shortfall over the next decade. What they have also found in their analysis and in comparing us to our peers in other states is, first off, North Dakota is incredibly blessed. We have abundant funding available for water that other states do not have, and thanks because of our robust oil and gas industry. But because of that robust funding in the past, our cost shares percentages have only continued to increase. And in fact, we are the highest in the nation for the amount of cost share and also the cost share percentages that we offer. No other state had cost share percentages as high as North Dakota. So Deloitte looked across the board at all of our water needs across the state, looked at our revenues over the next decade, and came up with 7 recommendations for adjustments to the State Water Commission cost share policy in order to make up that difference and make up for the funding shortfalls. The ones I will focus on here relevant to your discussions today are the Red River Valley Water Supply Project. Deloitte specifically for this project recommends bonding and funding this project outside of the Resources Trust Fund going forward, knowing that we will not have revenues in the Resources Trust Fund to support all of our water needs. And if we are to bond Red River, as well as the Minot Flood Control Project, that goes a long way towards shoring up the shortfall. I'm not going to lie, bonding will be a challenge. It will be a heavy lift. It will take a lot of convincing of the legislature Right now, we are currently working with the governor's office as he starts to put together his plan and his budget for next legislative session. That won't be announced until December, but in the meantime, working through this option, knowing this is a heavy lift. And if we are going to ask the legislature for something like this, we have to structure it such that we're not stepping on anyone else's toes. So in this case, Deloitte's recommending we take a look at legacy fund earnings. However, legacy fund earnings are largely obligated to property tax relief as well as the DOT's Highway Distribution Fund. So we're continuing to evaluate options there. Another challenge in all of this is if we are to convince the legislature to issue bonds for funding the Red River Valley Water Supply Project, we have to show them that we have a solid plan in place for the project long-term on the governance side of things as well. Shifting gears to that governance report and some of the findings from Deloitte. They looked, like I said, at Southwest, NAS, and Red River, looking at all three large regional systems in North Dakota and comparing it to systems in other states, interviewing stakeholders, reviewing legislative histories, reviewing all of the governance documents. And in their analysis, they have found a number of important challenges that face our systems here in North Dakota. First, they're finding that decision-making authority is not necessarily well aligned with risk, meaning who holds the risk for the project and who makes the decisions. Second, any existing government agreements, whether or not they provide adequate clarity around roles and responsibilities between the stakeholders and the governing bodies. And third, critical long-term governance structures and strategic plans remaining undeveloped. So with these findings across our regional systems across the state, Deloitte came up with recommendations for all three systems. And the way they approached the recommendations, they provided three options for each system. Rather than doing a comparative analysis between each system, this was the approach that had been taken in previous governance studies. Deloitte took a different approach and said, well, each system's unique. Each system has their own unique challenges. Let's compare different options within each system rather than comparing the systems against each other. So they came up with three options for each system, and here I'll focus on the far right with Red River Valley Water Supply. Option one is to keep its current governance model with improvements, namely that as disagreements arise between LAWA and Garrison, DWR would be playing a formal mediator role. We kind of see this option one as more of like a status quo option, but kind of more formalizing it. Option two would be for the State Water Commission to play this role with a formal leadership subcommittee of the State Water Commission, providing this leadership role for the project. And then option three would be to transfer ownership of the project and the O&M responsibility to the State Water Commission. And the argument Deloitte made here was that the State Water Commission is paying 75% of the cost of the project. Of course, the local users are also covering the 25% cost. But I will say, under option three, I will highlight here the governor's state budget guidelines for us across the board. No new FTE, no new buildings, any new ongoing initiatives that require a new cost require an equivalent reduction in ongoing spending elsewhere. This is across the board for every state agency. We are not exempt from the governor's budget guidelines. So if we are to implement option three, we cannot do it alone. We need LAWA and we need Garrison, and we need all three of us working together. Under option three, what we had anticipated, if this were to move forward, is that the State Water Commission would officially own the project, but still contract back out to Garrison for a lot of the day-to-day work that's happening today, and we would have a very collaborative relationship with Garrison and LAWA moving forward. Like I said, we cannot add new FTEs or new ongoing spending in our budget. So that would be the approach we would recommend. Our process timeline, these draft reports were presented at the March Water Topics Overview Committee. Between March and June, we had met with a variety of stakeholders, including stakeholders from LAWA and Garrison. We took your feedback. We used your feedback to help Deloitte finalize their reports, which were presented at the June Water Topics Overview Committee. At that meeting, Chairman Swantek had directed us to prepare an implementation plan ahead of the September Water Topics meeting. Since that time, we have traveled across the state. We held 8 basin meetings across the state in a variety of communities. We heard feedback on cost share. We heard feedback on governance and finance. We had a public comment period opened until the end of July. We are now reviewing all of the public comments. I will say that I am supportive of the principle of compromise without compromising our principles. So we are currently drafting our recommendations for implementation for cost share to present to the State Water Commission. I will say that we are trying to solve for the funding shortfalls. Will it be exactly as Deloitte recommends? Probably not. But the principles are still there that we absolutely need to make some changes to our cost share policy. On governance, this is where we ask for your help. We had a similar ask of Garrison at their last board meeting, and Garrison passed a resolution directing their staff and their consultants to work with DWR on an implementation plan for option 3. I will also say that Chairman Swantek has expressed his support for that option, as has the governor, and the governor's direction to me was we are going to move forward with option 3, work with the stakeholders to put together the implementation plan. So lastly, like I said, we are expected to present this implementation plan at the September 17th Water Topics Overview Committee. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Anybody have any questions, Reese? Good report. It's interesting to see the finances and the money, but I do like the bonding. So we will be very supportive to help you on the bonding issue, Reese. So whatever we can do, please ask us. And now we've got Spencer, and he's really fired up. He really likes to lobby, so we'll be sending him out there all the time. But Spencer, anything else on that, or do you want to go into the resolution?
I think it'd be good to go to resolution. So, Chair Mahoney, members of the board, you guys have a resolution in support of further due diligence of option 3. And, this really does recap a lot of what Mr. Haas just talked about, the alignment of risk and ownership, the statewide importance and scope. I know that this project's often been compared to, the Southwest Pipeline Project and NAS, and those serve, about 50,000 and 80,000 people respectively. And when used at its full capacity, this project has, the ability to support 50% of the state's population, right? So as far as scale and scope, that we really do feel firmly that the state, as far as ownership and option 3, is well positioned given the size and scope. And then, talking about putting the full faith and credit of the state of North Dakota behind the project. And Reese talked about the cost shares, about how the state is funding 75% of this project. And then, to note that the 25% of the local share is being funded by 40-year 2% sculpted debt by the Bank of North Dakota. And not to mention, the conversations surrounding bonding of the rest of the state's share. And then, also too, from a LAWA perspective, really view option 3 as an ability to enhance, user representation. We all have representation at the State Water Commission. We all have representation at the North Dakota Legislature, and the governor is elected by everybody statewide. And so I don't want to just repeat everything that Reese had said, but I think with the resolution in front of you, at least from a staff perspective, this is what we're committing to when it comes to contingent upon your support of the resolution, how we would operate moving forward. Number one, we would be collaborative and bring a solutions-oriented mindset to further due diligence on option 3. And so when working with the state of North Dakota, when working with the legislature, when working with the governor's office, when working with Garrison Diversion, that instead of looking for 100 reasons that this could not work, that we're going to look for the 1 or 2 that it could. And that's the mindset that we're going to bring to it. We're going to be looking for ways to create efficiencies, ways to lower costs, to benefit LAWA and the state of North Dakota. We really need to work hard to preserve the local voices in project development. LAWA has goals, we have priorities, we have objectives, and we need to work collaboratively to make sure that those progress as we move forward over the next 5 to 10 years. And then also, as Mr. Haas had noted, that they're under direction, no more FTEs, no more buildings, right? And so if the state does take ownership, they would need to work closely with LAWA and Garrison Diversion. And keeping us all involved is obviously very important to seeing that our needs and objectives are met. And, at the end of the day, this would be change, and change can be hard, but I think with the solutions-oriented mindset, we can end up at a better place than maybe we are right now. And so with that, Chair Mahoney, members of the board, I would turn it over to you for any questions, discussion, and the like.
Spencer, do you have the resolution?
I do, I'll pull it up.
I think somewhere in your thing. Do I have a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Oh, tie there. Good job. Discussion or questions? I know this has been talked about, and I think what we're doing, Spencer's making a good inroads with Garrison. We're going to have a meeting with their leadership next week, and we're going to try to see where we align and how we work. I think as we know in the bidding, I think, Tom, we've come under bid a lot of times, so we've done really well with KIP in our bidding and getting along with the farmers. I said the other day, we have still eminent domain discussions with the diversion, but we don't have that problem, or have not had that problem with this project. So that's a tip-off to KIP, a good work with the farmers and to have things happen. We think with due diligence, and Mayor Bashinsky and I have talked about this, that we think we can work with Garrison and kind of find areas where we align and work together. Some things we don't want to change because they work fairly well. And you can see we want to continue to work with Garrison on certain duties, which we've always worked well with them. So we would see it as an opportunity to work with Reese Haas and his department and try to figure out what works the best and most efficient. What we found with the diversion is the more you collaborate and work together, the better things were. And that was we saved over $150 million on that project. So I don't know if we'll save that much on this one, but we'll see what we can do. But I think we need to continue. Any questions of Spencer at this time, or are we okay? Roll call vote, please.
Schuler,
Yes.
Wachensky,
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Karlsruhe,
Yes.
Stardust,
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Hidzo,
Yes.
Mahoney,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Morlock,
Yes.
Nielsen,
Yes.
Schmaltz,
Yes.
and Schmidt.
Yes.
Your motion's carried.
So Reese, you see we have full support of this, so let's get together and work on this, okay?
Sounds
go-
great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're very welcome. Committee reports. Al Grosser's got a variety of different things he wants to do today, but I think the team's done a good job, and we probably will take each item separately, Al. I think you're going to have Paul help you out as well, right?
That's great. Yep, that's the general plan. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee, board members. This is a TAC. We actually had 2 TAC meetings since we last talked to the board here. We met on June 23rd and on July 23rd. So what you see on your packet is the combination of the action items of both of those 2 different committees. So we had our, kind of standard financial updates and construction updates, which you're going to have at your meeting today. And then we had a series of task orders. I'll mention that if you look on your agenda, task order 1, 2, and 3, those are basically associated with the Biota water treatment plant. And there's a lot of moving parts that are going to go on with that, but those are all 3 associated with moving that project forward, either investigating or getting into the next construction phases, things like that. As the chair mentioned, I think the sequence here, Black and Veatch, Kurt Ronenkamp will go through a couple of slides, I think, on each one of them, and then we'll give the committee recommendation on each one. I'll mention item 4 and 5 were added at the last TAC meeting. They were added to the agenda. There was some time sensitivity to both of those, and that's why those were added. And we have recommendations on those also, and we'll bring those in for action or resolutions here today. With that, if I can introduce Kurt. I think you know Kurt Ronenkamp, Black and Veatch.
Thank you, Al.
Wanted to start off with just kind of a timeline of how we're going to move through the task orders and construction to get the facilities built for NDOS. Up on your screen in the gray is kind of the timing for the pipeline. We're well underway in design for the transmission line, and essentially by the end of the year, we should pretty much be done with the pipeline design. The construction will continue on into and be funded in the 29-31 with probably a completion in 2032. And then moving down into the green on your left-hand side, you'll see McCluskey Facilities. I'll talk about a task order today for the construction phase services. That'll be the first part for the contract one at the Biota Water Treatment Plant. And then we'll move into contract two, which is continuation of work at the intake in the tunnel and the shaft. And today we will ask you to consider a task order to start the design on that. We would want to get that started right away and complete that within 6 to 9 months. And then also today is contract 4, which is the power supply for the new Biota Water Treatment Plant. We're asking today for consideration and approval of a task order to support the work that Central Power and WAPA will be completing. And then finally, just kind of an update for the board. We are working on developing a task order for final design services for the third contract at the water treatment plant. That is essentially the treatment facilities and a 2 pumping station. That's really the balance of the work, the really big construction project. And that's going to be kind of the focus of Paul's discussion here in a minute on the construction management at risk approach that you may be interested in. And then finally, wrapping up, and this will occur later on, it's not quite on the critical path, is the reservoirs in the contract there for the tanks and the chemical feed facilities. So that's kind of the timeline. I'll go into specifically the individual task orders.
Just one quick question. Garrison mentioned to us upsizing of the pipe coming out on the NWAS. And is that in any of the considerations of what we're going to go ahead with?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we do plan to, we have contracts 2B and contracts 3 that will come out for bid and advertisement later on this year, and we do plan on incorporating an 84-inch bid alternate into that, so we will know what the costs are to upsize those pipelines to get us, and that would get us with the goal being that we would take 165 all the way from the intake on the McCluskey all the way to the Cheyenne River outfall.
Thank you. I think Tom Erdman will explain the physics of that. Somehow you make the pipe bigger and you get more water through, right, Tom? Yeah. So we'd be very curious about that because that enhanced capacity, that helps. Thank you.
The first task order before you today for consideration is task order 2650. This is for construction phase services for the first contract at the Biota Water Treatment Plant. It includes essentially construction observation, construction administration, processing of all the paperwork during the process, and the overall fee for this task order is $2.134 million, and that represents about 10.4 of the estimated construction cost. To kind of show you a little bit of the context of what it entails, this is a map of the site. That's shown in yellow is the roadwork improvements that will be installed and constructed, quite a bit of access work, and then there'll be a tunnel shaft on the Biota Water Treatment Plant site that will be excavated. That shaft will be 40 foot in diameter and about 85 foot deep. So this approach that we're taking here is very similar to what we did at the first contract for the Missouri River intake.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion or comments or questions?
May I ask who made the motion? Keith did, okay, thank you. Are you ready for the roll call?
Yeah, no discussion, go roll call.
Okay.
Nelson?
Schuler,
Yes.
Wachensky,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Karlsruhe,
Yes.
Dardis,
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Hidzo,
Yes.
Mahoney,
Aye.
Meyer,
Yes.
Nielsen.
Yes.
Oh, I forgot Morlock.
Yes.
Schmaltz.
Yes.
And Schmidt.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
You can continue, Al?
Okay.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I'm just thinking as this thing rolls through here, maybe what, if you don't mind, Kurt does a pretty good job when he's on the roll here on these presentations, so maybe just so the board knows, the committee did approve all of the items on your agenda today. We may want to have a little bit more discussion on the Washburn and the construction manager at risk, but certainly items 1, 2, 3, I'll just say that the committee recommended approval of those. So if you want to go through the slide and do what you just kept doing, works very well.
Okay.
Okay, the second task order up for consideration today is Task Order 2360. This is for the second contract at the Biota Water Treatment Plant site. It essentially is for design services associated with the intake on the McCluskey Canal, which you'll see to your left in the figure here, the tunnel, 72-inch tunnel from the intake to the shaft, and then a final probably 2-foot concrete liner within sight of the wet well. This, again, mirrors the approach that we took at the Missouri River Intake Contract 2. So we're very familiar and comfortable with this approach and how it went there. The task order is divided into 6 different tasks. It represents about 5.3% of the construction cost, and the overall fee for the task order is $1.02 million. And with that, I would stand for any questions or...
Any questions? Do you have a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Ann? Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Schuler,
Yes.
Wachensky,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Karlsruhe,
Yes.
Dardis,
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Hidzo,
Yes.
Mahoney,
Aye.
Meyer,
Yes.
Morlock,
Yes.
Nielsen,
Yes.
Schmaltz,
Yes.
and Schmidt.
Yes.
Your motion is carried.
Very good. You're back on, Kurt?
Okay, the third task order is 3240. This is for Contract 4 at the water plant. It's for the power supply. This is for planning, coordination. The lion's share of the work is environmental assessments that are required of the federal agencies. And it will also include land acquisition as well for the transmission line and both of the substation sites. So there are 7 tasks, as you can see there, listed on your screen. And the work split for the $698,000 authorization is 33% Black and Veatch, about 19% AE2S, and about 48% OLTEG. OLTEG will be doing the environmental assessments and the land services work. So out of that one, this represents about 1.7 of the construction cost, which we're estimating is going to be in the $40 to $50 million range.
Any questions? Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second, Schmidt.
Did you want to cover this one?
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, roll call vote again.
Yeah.
Schuler,
Yes.
Wachensky,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Karlsruhe,
Yes.
Dardis,
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Hidzo,
Yes.
Mahoney,
Aye.
Meyer,
Yes.
Morlock,
Yes.
Yes.
Schmaltz,
Yes.
and Schmidt.
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Thank you. Okay, Al, you're up again.
Thank you. So the fourth one is the Washburn Water Treatment Plant, the supply task order. As you know and been reported before, they do have a FEMA grant out there that we've been waiting on, and it seems like it's been spinning here for a long time, many months. But there's also some discussions going on, at the state level, I think regarding cost shares. Is it a branch pipeline? Is it a main pipeline? How might those cost shares work out for some of the local? And Mayor Mahoney has been, leading a lot of those contacts. It's our understanding that it would be beneficial to have, a task order, something tangible, basically to have some, continue the discussions with the state and try to refine some of the questions. So it was an added item. We didn't have a lot of background. What we ended up coming up with is a bit of a compromise that we wanted to keep the process moving, but we're not sure what we should be committing to, on the local level. So what we did is talked about the task order to move it ahead with a not to exceed of $100,000. I understand that we just got some information relative to how some of that might break down, but because we didn't have that at the committee, we'd like to bring back, the actual substance of those particular items back to the committee. So right now, it's really more of a financial bookmark and just something to move us forward. As a reminder on part of this, the main thing I think that the Lake Agassiz Water Authority group is the intake. We have an intake on the Missouri River, and a part of this is to put that intake back to beneficial use so that we, the state and everybody can benefit from that. So that's one of the reasons. I think that's our main input at this point is to try to make sure that has some benefits. So with that, I can try to answer any questions if there are any, but the committee recommended moving that forward, and again, it's basically a financial bookmark.
Al's comment is basically, Reese Haas has said that the cost share may change in the next biennium, basically, and it would go down for Washburn. So we're trying to put a bookmark in here because we'd originally discussed with Washburn, it was a 75-25 split, just like we did for Red River projects. They're saying they may want to drop that to 60%. And if they did their cost share next biennium, it'd actually be 50%. So we're trying to maintain at least a 60% cost share, if not the 75. But that's why we would like to have a bookmark, because we've been working on this for 3 or 4 years, trying to get this Washburn thing done to use an asset. And the legislative body likes the idea that we're going to use that asset and it's going to be utilized. So this is a bookmark, and it's right, the technical committee did not have all the stuff in it, but we're going to have Spencer follow up on this and make sure that the board, is comfortable with what the spend is. So he'll be tracking this for this and it's nice to have an executive director, but he'll be tracking it to make sure Al's happy. So I appreciate a motion to approve.
Move.
Is there a second? Thanks, Tom. Any discussion? Ann, you want to comment at all about what's going on with that or how they're doing?
I think they're waiting to hear what their numbers will be, just like many of our users, and I appreciate this. I think that will move forward so we can see what that would be so they can make a decision.
Yep. Very good. Roll call vote, please.
Schuler,
Yes.
Buchensky,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Karlsruhe,
Yes.
Dardis,
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Itzel,
Yes.
Mahoney,
Aye.
Meyer,
Yes.
Morlock,
Yes.
Nielsen,
Yes.
Schmaltz,
Yes.
and Schmidt.
Yes.
Your motion's carried.
Thanks. Now we're going to do the Biota Water Treatment Plant, Construction Manager at Risk. This has been talked about quite a bit. I think, Al, you're going to introduce it, and then Paul's going to go through the presentation.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we will do that. It's an item. We spent quite a bit of time with it at the committee. And again, the reason for it is when you go through the timelines, when you see what Paul will be presenting, to really take full advantage of a construction manager at risk process, we need to be starting it now because there's kind of a long lead in as to how you go through the hiring and evaluation process, et cetera, et cetera. So when we saw that, we said we should probably try to accelerate that action to the board. if we want to pursue it, now seems to be the time. Paul's going to do a good job, I'm sure, going through it. To be honest with you, there's not a lot of people on the TAC that had a lot of experience with a construction manager at risk. Grand Forks has used it a number of occasions. I'm generally familiar with the process, but I will tell you our local internal expert is Todd Phelan. So if we get after the presentation, if there's a lot of detailed questions as to how things worked and the benefits, we'll certainly I'd ask Todd to be up here and help with that. So with that, unless there's any questions, I'll just turn it over to Paul at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we could go to the slide that shows schedule. Yep, there we go. So, Mr. Chairman and board members, you are looking at a slide which shows the overall schedule. There's a lot on this thing, but there are 3 takeaways that we'd just like you to remember and think about. And one of those takeaways will lead into our discussion on construction management at risk. We effectively are managing 3 kind of concurrent projects. One of them is a pipeline construction project. Those are the first several black and blue lines on here. And pipelines are expected to be complete. This is kind of what Kurt was saying in about September of 32 in that time frame. And we do have some control over how quickly we build the pipelines. I mean, they're mostly designed, and frankly, if we want to speed them up, we can spend more money quickly, but we have that lever to pull, so to speak. The second project that we have kind of going on is the completion of the NDAW's Biota water treatment plant. And this schedule lays out a traditional design, bid, and build construction process. But as you can see in line 228, this will be completed kind of in that late 32, early 33 time frame. And the CMAR discussion really ties into how we might compress some of that schedule. The third project effectively we're managing is the power supply project. Kurt talked about that a little bit. And we have just received from WAPA basically their facility plan in terms of what they want to build, how they want to build it, when they want to build it. And that allows us to start to do some more work around their facility plan to think about how we could shorten that schedule. But both of these pink and this red line represent lines that are potentially critical paths for the completion of the overall program. Where, if you go to the next slide, please, Spencer. So in summary, we're looking at electrical equipment, design and procurement, water treatment plant design and construction, and completion of the pipeline. We are looking at how we can shorten all 3 of these pathways, but the following CMAR discussion really relates to the Biota water treatment plant design and construction. And if you can go to the next slide, please. So there are 3 traditional ways that we deliver construction projects in a kind of a public sector marketplace. One of them is design, bid, build. This is what we've been doing for the pipelines. The second is design build, which is we're not going to spend a lot of time on. It's not allowed in North Dakota. And the third one is construction management at risk. That is allowed in North Dakota and has been used a fair amount for some significant projects. And we'd like to compare and contrast the number 3, our CMAR, construction management at risk, to what we have been doing with design, bid, build. If you can go to the next slide, please. So with design, bid, build, most of us are familiar with this. We have an owner, and to the owner, we have an engineer contracted, and there's also a contractor who's contracted to the owner, and there can also be a separate construction manager. In this case, the owner is having the engineer also provide construction management services. But this is what a typical design, bid, build contractual relationship looks like. Can you go to the next slide, please? It's a similar arrangement for CMAR. It's a similar contractual arrangement, but there are some significant differences. So there's still an engineer who is contracted to the owner. The engineer is responsible for the design. The engineer has liability for the design. But then instead of a general contractor, basically what the owner will do is contract to somebody which is called the general contractor is a CMAR, Construction Management at Risk. And that CMAR will go out and in a more collaborative fashion, take various work packages and bid out various work packages. One of them might be a building foundation support work package. One of them might be a mechanical work package. One of them might be a equipment procurement things. There's a variety of different work packages. The general contractor, or the CMAR in this case, will bid out these various work packages and obtain competitive pricing on these work packages, kind of in parallel with some of the ongoing design work and construction work. And our next slide will just illustrate what this looks like in a little bit more detail. If you can go to the next slide, please. So here is the top graph shows a typical design bid build process. There's a engineering procurement process, there's a design process, then there's effectively a bidding process, and then there's a construction process. And you can see it all happens sequentially, and although the engineer certainly remains involved during construction, there is a bit of a handoff between design and construction. Construction management at risk is shown below, and you can start to see some overlapping things that had been done sequentially. So throughout the design process, there is selection of or procurement of a CMAR contractor, and that is what Mr. Grasser was saying. We'd like to have permission to start more now. And then after the procurement of that CMAR, while the design is progressing, the CMAR is starting to be working with the design team. So picture a series of arrows kind of back and forth between the design team and the CMAR contractor working in the pre-construction phase. They are doing a few things. They are starting to develop an overall opinion of cost. So you have kind of a more detailed, probably market-based cost estimate. And they are reviewing the design alongside the engineer and the owner, thinking about ways that we could deliver the project, either alternative ways of constructing things or sequencing the construction. And the third thing that the CMAR would be doing is, under this pre-construction phase, is also starting to think about, are there early out packages that they can start to construct? So for instance, we could be constructing a deep foundation package, a floor slab package. Those things could be happening while the design is being completed overall. So there are a few advantages to CMAR. The most important being, I think, for our purposes, is a schedule advantage. We think we could save, I believe we could save about a year off from the design by starting to work with a CMAR contractor. But there's a few other values or advantages that accrue. One of them is that you have a construction manager start to identify more critical path things and help us get some of that critical path, either procurement or construction, done early to shorten construction. There's a value engineering component that kind of comes into play as the CMAR says, have you thought about, could we do construction this way or that way to save money? And I think the final thing is, beyond kind of schedule and value engineering issues, that you have earlier cost certainty in the project. You are building cost certainty of what the project's going to be throughout the design process. It allows you to make course corrections in the design process to hit a target for what the cost should be. I think we've all kind of had the nail-biting kind of hold your breath bid openings kind of things on the traditional bid design, bid build projects, and hoping that the bids come in is with the engineer's estimate, and this is a way to build cost certainty prior to how that is going to go. Spencer, if you can go to the next slide, please. I'm going to cover the next few slides fairly quickly. First of all, I think we want to say design, bid, build has served the project well for the pipelines. It's kept the owner in charge of the project. KIP has spent a lot of time managing land, managing local community concerns, and design, bid, build has worked well for that. And it's frankly allowed some of the best contractors to emerge on our pipeline construction. There is a challenge that there's no price certainty until bid day, as we have seen. We can go to the next slide. But facility construction is very different from pipeline. Instead of a long linear project, you have a given site, you have lots of equipment suppliers, lots of subcontractors, much more complex scheduling and coordination. There's concerns about price escalation over time. So all of these things make facility construction different than pipeline construction, which could lead us to seeking a different avenue by which we manage construction. You can go to the next slide, please. So I've kind of talked about how CMAR works. I've kind of talked about some of the role that they play. I mean, they play a role, it's kind of called the pre-construction role, where they work with the engineer, and then they develop a guaranteed maximum price during the design process. Then there's the construction phase responsibility, where they are responsible for the overall construction, coordinating all the work with a multitude of different suppliers and subcontractors. And, there is a point where there's an exit ramp that's available if you get into a CMAR relationship, and at the end of the design process, the owner is thinking, we are not comfortable with this. There is a way to kind of exit out of the CMAR process. Next slide, please. So I've talked about some of the benefits of this. I think this slide just reviews the benefits. If we can go to the next slide, please. There are some potential challenges. So you are paying some higher upfront cost. You will pay a cost for the contractor to be involved in the design process. That's normally a fixed fee. So that's something that we need to think about. It takes a lot of active owner involvement. I mean, part of the success of CMAR is the amount of owner collaboration that you get with it. So it does take some time to kind of, I think, wring out of the process all the involvement or the benefits that we hope. And there is more complex negotiations that take place in terms of who owns risk and that type of thing, compared to a standard design, bid, build, construction project. Just a couple more slides. If you can go to the next one, Spencer. So how would a CMAR be selected? Well, the state statutory code lays out a fairly prescribed process. We are fairly familiar with this process. Grand Forks is very familiar with the process. There's an RFQ phase, there's an RFP evaluation phase, there's a chance for interviews, and then there's value-based pricing, and that all takes place. And as I said, it's all kind of prescribed with state statutes. Next slide, please. I think the observation was made is that Todd's probably the expert in the room, and that's really true. We have Grand Forks has done at least 3, I think perhaps more, CMAR projects that it has been fairly happy with. Its relatively recent water treatment plant was done with CMAR. Its very current wastewater treatment plant, which is under construction right now, was done with CMAR. It has done a community recreational center with CMAR and has been pleased with all of the results, and has been, I think Grand Forks is a kind of an articulate and strong advocate for using CMAR on this project. Just one more slide. And we are not saying this from an advocacy perspective, but both us and AE2S have had a fair amount of CMAR experience, and so we would feel fairly comfortable working with a CMAR relationship if the boards would choose to go with CMAR in this way. And Mr. Grasser, I think I'll pause at this point, see if there's any questions that can be answered. Otherwise, I believe as you have teed up, we are seeking permission from the board to continue down this road. And our next step would actually be to develop a CMAR procurement document that we could issue as a RFQ into the marketplace to start to generate interest. So if the board gives us permission, we will start to develop that CMAR procurement document, but I'll pause and see if there's any questions.
Any questions of the group? Dave?
Paul, Dave Carlsrud here.
Yeah.
You identified KIP as finding quality construction companies and the like, and we've had some other people who have done great jobs for us. How does the CMAR affect that process or those processes that have gone forward?
So with the pipeline construction, I think the CMAR would reach into a different pool of contractors than what we've had for pipeline. There may be some overlap, but they would tend to be a different set of contractors. But I believe what would happen is that as the CMAR identified different types of work that it would like to accomplish, as I said, might be foundation work, might be structural steel work, might be concrete slab work. The CMAR would work with the owner. It would identify a number of different qualified subcontractors. It would seek open book pricing from those subcontractors, and I think based on input from the owner and the CMAR's own experience, it would select the subcontractor that it could feel could best, most cost competitively, and from a qualifications perspective, perform the work that is in the best interest of the owner for that particular part of the project. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Mayor Bushinsky?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, I think Grand Forks has used this really successfully. I do have a question for Paul. Are you thinking kind of 2 overall bid packages, get foundation, building exterior, those types of excavation, footings, all that done in one bid package first, and then look at a second one as you get through schematic design? I mean, moving forward, how many bid packages do you think we'll do? To save time, we probably need to do more than one.
I think we would likely have quite a few different bid packages at the end of the day. I think we would have probably the best thing we could do to save time is to start a deep foundations package and do that first. I think there could be a separate package for some of it, just the mass concrete work. There could be a separate package for the structural steel work. I think we would rely on the CMAR to help advise us in terms of how many bid packages, but I think there would be quite a few bid packages. Just as an example, with the Fargo water treatment plant, comparable size project, almost the first year of that project, of a 3-year project, the first year was spent underground, building foundations, building the basement. And if we could start that work early, as opposed to waiting for the full design to be completed, that's where we could most quickly shave off many, many months, a year of schedule by starting some of those key underground packages early. But I think there would be not just a few, but I think probably several different bid packages.
So I'll just give an example. I talked about our community recreation center. We were able to get that early groundwork bid first. We actually were in the ground constructing that before we had the final bids on what was actually going to be inside the building. So we saved months and months on that, and you can value engineer the entire time. So once you're done with schematic design, you can go between the engineer, the architect, the CMAR, and find ways to save money. Do it again at design development phase, and then finally, once again, we get to construction documents. So I think it's really effective, and something like this, it makes a ton of sense, and we've had, like I said, a lot of success in Grand Forks. If Ken Veen was sitting up here, he'd say the same thing. So I know there'll be more questions, but I will move approval on the.
Is there a second?
Second, Schmidt.
Second, Schmidt. Any discussion or questions? Marty Dardis.
I have a question. From your preliminary engineering estimates and then through the completion, what is the net difference? Is there Is this saving us money? I understand that time is money.
Yeah.
And it saves on the schedule. But what's the net difference? What is a CMAR
Yeah.
cost?
So it's hard to quantify what the exact difference would be, is because we will never have kind of like bid the project in a traditional design bid build way, and hence have a fixed price if we did it our traditional way, and be able to compare that to the CMAR. So it is difficult to do a true apples to apples comparison and say, in this case, CMAR saved us $30 million. CMAR saved us $50 million. I think the savings will accrue with cost estimating or with scheduling, as I noted. I think there will be savings being accrued with just a sense that we have identified the best processes and the best contractors and the best equipment that bring the most value to the project. And I think savings will occur with the overall just collaborative nature of the work. Sometimes you have construction projects that go very well. Sometimes you have projects that go poorly. And there's a more adversarial relationship. I think CMAR brings a added likelihood that you will have a more collaborative and hence a more efficient cost process. But I'm sorry, I can't say that CMAR will guarantee a 10% savings or something like that. That's a difficult decision to make. I would maybe defer to Mr. Phelan to see if he would have anything that he would like to say in relation to Mayor Dartis's question that was asked.
I have an additional question. So so does CMAR operate on a percentage of the overall bids? Is that what it is? And what is that percentage?
Yes, that is a good question. So the CMAR operates at a markup of the overall subcontractor cost. That markup could range from 4% to 10%. That is a markup that we would want to negotiate, and we would seek what the proposed markup is as part of the competitive procurement process. But effectively, where the CMAR makes its money is that they are marking up in a kind of, they are marking up all of the subcontractor costs. But I don't want to say that is just a added cost to the project, because basically if you had a traditional prime contractor under design bid build, they would also be adding markups and profits to the overall work that their subcontractors were doing. So that is how the CMAR does effectively make its money, is through markup of its subs, but a prime contractor would be marking up its subs anyway. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Paul.
Todd, you're going to make a comment?
Chair Mahoney and Member Dartis, I think on the pre-construction, that's going to be a flat fee. I think it's a long process, so the pre-construction is going to be a minor cost to the overall project cost, so it'll be a flat fee. And I think to add them early on in the design process, they're going to add a lot of value. And of course, they want to stick with the team throughout the process, and so they're going to generally have the base fee for the pre-construction is going to be relatively low because they want to get through the bidding process with the GMPs and develop that. So I think we're going to get a lot of value through pre-construction with the construction manager at risk. And I think as projects like this, why the value comes is that they bring constructability. You know, design engineers are really great at designing things, but someone's got to build it. And so they're going to add a lot of how are we going to construct this in these different environments? How are we going to attract different system suppliers, and are the suppliers the best we want to use at a needed price? I think the other thing they're going to do is attract contractors. And Paul talked about the various bid packages. Right now, with if you just did design bid build, you're going to get a general contractor, you're going to get an electrical contractor and a mechanical. With this, we can break these down into various component parts, and we're going to attract more competitive bids with more local and regional contractors, and than you would get if you went to a design bid build. If you went to a design bid build, you're going to get a large out-of-state contractors that are going to bid this project. This is a way to get more bidders and hopefully more local and regional contractors that'll be more competitive. So I think the process is so long, and as Paul said, once we get through pre-construction, we're ready to bid, we're going to gather so much good intelligence, so much good teamwork. But if the GMPs don't come in, the guaranteed maximum price don't come in the way we want to, we can always go a different course at that point in time. So we're not locked into the end, but I think the value of going to a CMAR right now is in the pre-construction phase. Mr. Dardis.
Carlsruhe.
So we've heard a lot about CMAR, and full disclosure, we have a project going with a CMAR, seems to be working all right. It's only $15 million. It's a lot to us, but not to this. So we've heard a lot about that. Haven't heard anybody speak favorably about the design bid build. So is this a no-brainer, or what's the thought process on those supporting the CMAR?
Chair Mahoney and Mr. Carlsruhe, I think the important part is we're asking as part of the TAC committee to move down this road, start advertising. What do they say about trees? If you don't plant the tree today, you can't let it start growing. And so we're going to go through this RFQ process, and then we're going to negotiate. Presuming that everything turns out positive, we're going to keep going down the process. But if we don't start this process today, we'll just have a bunch of question marks. So that's what we're asking today. Allow us to move through the process. As we go through these various phases of this project, it'll go through TAC and back to the LAWA board for further decisions. And you're gonna see this CMAR item come through a few times before you're gonna see it. We're gonna bring back an advertisement to advertise for a selection process. You're gonna approve that. We're gonna bring back a CMAR for you to select that, and then we're gonna bring back a pre-construction agreement with that CMAR. So you're going to see this many times, and there's many stop gates all along the way.
Mr. Chair, could I just add one
sure.
comment? I think the engineering is a little bit more straightforward on the pipeline. It's a lot of work, but it's a little bit more straightforward. Probably 95% of the things we bid at a city every day are just design, bid, build. When it has this level of complexity, you want to get the engineers talking to the who's going to build the thing along the way. Otherwise, there's risk that they have to build in because they got to build something that's just been designed without that input. So, I mean, the majority of the time we're design, bid, build, and that makes a lot of sense. But with this complexity and this timeline, especially if we're going to bond, we're going to have the money available. There's no sense in spreading this out another year or two. So I think it's a great story at the legislature too.
Al, you had something else?
Yeah, I can address, maybe hit some of those items too. From the committee's level, I think the issue of having some price certainty is a big deal as opposed to waiting to see what a bid opening looks like, because by the time we get into that stage, we're going to have some certainty on the costs through this whole process. One thing we didn't talk about really here, I think it's a big deal, is being able to pick the right equipment. We're right in the process now of assembling our operations subcommittee group to get together and talk about, what's the best equipment to use in this application, what we need for labor and maintenance. As any big infrastructure project, the thing that really gets you over time is your operating costs. And through the CMAR process, you can actually pick some of the right equipment that you want to have. And through that process, you can make sure that the equipment, one piece of equipment talks to the next, that talks to the computer, that talks to the software, all of those things. Those are big deals, in my opinion. And I think that's one of the values that we bring to this thing. It's hard to say what the dollar savings are of that, and some of those dollar savings may show up later, again, on the operations side. So I think the value engineering, the cost certainty, and the operational, I think efficiencies are probably some of the really big items, and they're hard to put a number on, but again, I can't emphasize them enough. I think those are big deals.
Other question?
Paul, Al, Todd, I don't know who wants to answer this, but can you maybe expand a little bit more on what the at-risk portion of the construction manager at risk means? That might help the board better understand how that relationship works and, where those, I wouldn't say cost savings, but there's from my understanding, there's a limit or a threshold that it sits at.
I'll defer that to Paul for the first shot at it.
That is a good question, and I did not cover that, so thank you for bringing that up. So what at-risk means is typically, someplace between the 60% design and the 90% design, you get from the CMAR contractor a guaranteed maximum price. And that is the part where that kind of puts the contractor at risk, so to speak. So this is not a totally open book, whatever cost it costs, and this would pay the contractor. There is a portion in the design process, again, between 60 and 90%, where you fix with the CMAR what's called a guaranteed maximum price. They provide that price, and they are held to it, just like a bidder would be, or just like a contractor and design bid build would be held to the price. And they are guaranteed to build your plant at that cost. So at that point, you have price certainty at that point. Does that help answer your question?
Yes, thank you, Paul.
Mayor Dardis.
I'm not speaking against the CMAR, just so everybody understands that. With a CMAR type of process, are we at risk at all with the North Dakota legislature and how they interpret what bidding projects should be anything over $200,000? Because there's been several comments made where the CMAR representative will negotiate that prices after the bidding process is done. And they're going to have a tendency to use contractors that they've used in the past. Is there any risk there whatsoever to us of being in violation of North Dakota statute?
Chair Mahoney and Mr. Dardis, my answer would be no. We're going to follow the state prescribed way to move forward with it. The state of North Dakota has also used this bidding process. And so it's important to note that we are still going to bid all of the various aspects of this project. There'll just be more bidding packages. So there will be that traditional bid opening. There'll just be more bid packages. I think when we talked about negotiating, we're involving the construction manager in more of the selection of the equipment as part of the design, things like that, so that we can really refine things. I talked about constructability, but there will be bid openings on all the various aspects of this project. And I think what you do when you get bid openings in these multiple packages, you generally get a lot of bidders in these smaller packages because it'll be more competitive that way.
So during the build of the pipeline, have we had any bids that have come in over and above what the engineer's estimates has been? That's probably a question for Kip. He probably would have the most knowledge. One?
No, say Paul might be on still.
Have we had any? Mayor Bochinsky made a great observation, and that's value engineering as the process is going on. Now, I've got experience with an $18 million project, and the value engineering that staff and the experts that we have already under contract with our third-party engineering people, they value engineered that and saved us over $2.5 million. So all of a sudden, the original price was going to be plus 18 million, and we did it at 16.5. So that's my point, is we've got great staff, we've got good people that have been involved in this, and is this a different animal than, putting pipe in the ground?
Chair Mahoney and Mr. Dardis, I think this is a different animal. Obviously, if you've been with a city, you understand facilities like water treatment plants, but this is a different animal than a pipeline. And I think the important part of this value engineering is it's ongoing through pre-construction and design. And I think the fact that Paul Boersma, Black and Beach are recommending that we go this direction is a signal that they think this is a value add to the design team for us to do this. And I think, as Al said too, one of the biggest expenses of this project will be once the project's over and we got to operate this. And keep in mind that currently, right now, LAWA is going to pay 100% of the operation of this facility. And over time, the annual operation expense will be likely the largest expense that we'll have. And we want to make sure it's designed and operated in a way that is efficient and effective. And I think the other important part is Al talked about a lot of times, engineers know what they know, but they've never operated and they've never constructed anything. And so getting our folks involved in this is really important because, previously, you get a lot of this, operators take over a facility, one of the first things we hope they don't say is, why weren't we consulted? Why did they design it this way? And so this helps eliminate that end of, why did they do this way? And so I think the fact that Paul and Black and Veatch are coming to us, that we want to add another value-added partner, it is a big deal because they know how much value they're going to bring to the design, construction, and the operation of this facility.
Mayor Bushinsky?
Yeah, I think you hit a great point, and that's, one segment of it. When you're doing it through the CMAR process, anywhere from when the architect brings something, an engineer could say, well, maybe if you design it like this, you can save some money there. All the way till there's a final contract, or there might be a wall panel. They've bid, they won the bid, but they said, well, we actually have this product that's cheaper and will do a better job. Maybe we should shift to this. And then you're negotiating with them at that point. Or soundproofing. You get all the experts that are in their particular field that can come back and say, here's a way you can save money and you can negotiate that. So when they're talking about the negotiation, it's not in place of any bidding. Everyone still has to win their bids and get the projects, but they just have more input all throughout the process.
Sure.
Chair Mahoney, members of the board, just as you guys also make your policy decision here on this item, I do want you to know, just from a diplomatic perspective, one of those first 2 weeks that I was on, we were in Carrington and was meeting with senior Garrison leadership, and we did talk about CMAR, and there was general support that, hey, if it can move the timeline forward, they had communicated that they're generally on board with that as well. And we did talk with Mr. Haas there at the Department of Water Resources, and he did relay that if it would speed up the timeline, there would be general support from their office for it, and that they're agnostic otherwise. So I just wanted you to know that.
And Al's point is basically when we did the water plant, we automated a lot of stuff. So how that automation does, it took away manual calculation, but I can almost tell what's in the water just by automation now on a 24-hour basis, and I don't have somebody doing that. So it is a real critical that you have things in place that save us money. So I appreciate that. No other discussion? We'll have roll call vote, please.
Schuler,
Yes.
Pachensky,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Karlsruhe,
Yes?
Dardis,
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Hidzo,
Yes.
Mahoney,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Morlock,
Yes.
Nielsen,
Yes.
Schmaltz,
Yes.
and Schmidt.
Yes.
The motion is carried.
Very good. Maureen Sorsted, your FAC meeting report.
Yes, thank you, Chair Mahoney, members of the board. Feels like it's been a while since I've been here. In the meantime, as noted on your agenda, Finance Advisory Committee, we've met twice, once in June, on June 25th and July 28th. We did these in person, more of a work session style type of forum, a little different than what we've had most recently, but it worked well. Trying to work through with Spencer, Mr. Gaddy, just all the particulars, getting caught up on what assumptions have been used, what's been shared, how do we want to update those assumptions and share that information with users going forward. Much of what Mr. Gaddy will share with you when we get into the agenda item following with financial projections and modeling, some of which just talking about some of those upfront costs borne by some of the users in Garrison and how to true up those with future debt service. But Mr. Gaddy will go through that. First of all, though, I just wanted to touch on a couple action items that we had and were recommended by the committee. First of which is to designate Gate City Bank as a depository for LAWA. Currently, LAWA banks with Old National, which was previously Bremer Bank. Garrison currently has a depositor of Gate City Bank. My understanding is there's been some day-to-day operational, administrative, technical issues that make it quite cumbersome. The recommendation from staff and came out of the committee would be to change and make Gate City Bank a depository. So that's what's in front of you, and you can see the attached staff report that sums that up.
Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
And moved and seconded. No other discussion? Roll call vote?
Schuler,
Yes.
Chensky,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Karlsruhe, Dardis,
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Idzo,
Yes.
Mahoney,
Aye.
Meyer,
Yes.
Morlock,
Yes.
Nielsen,
Yes.
Schmaltz,
Yes.
and Schmidt.
Yes. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Related to that, the next item is to designate depositors, signers on the accounts. For your information, it does take 2 signers on checks and documents, but we would like to update the list of who would be authorized, and that would, do I have the right? Authorized agents for those deposits, and listed on the staff report here. As you can see, it was recommended to have Chair Mahoney, Spencer Halverson as Executive Director, Mary Meridian as River Water Supply Project Deputy Project Manager, and then what also came out during the Finance Advisory Committee was to also add Susan Thompson on there as a co-chair of the Finance Advisory Committee. So that's the list of 4 that we would recommend this board approve as authorized agents.
Questions?
Oh, so moved. I see Maureen found a way to keep her own name off that list, so well done.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second, Schmidt.
Schmidt? Roll call vote, please.
Schuler,
Yes.
Chensky,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Karlsruhe,
Yes.
Dardis,
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Idzo,
Yes.
Mahoney,
Aye.
Meyer,
Yes.
Morlock,
Yes.
Nielsen,
Yes.
Schmaltz,
Yes.
and Schmidt.
Yes.
Your motion's carried.
Thank you. The next item here is not an action item, but just an update to the board. Been working with Mr. Halverson on that communication piece, trying to get information out to MLC users on, as they're looking at their own budget deadlines for 2027, wanting to provide them an estimate on how much to budget for, set aside for LAWA. This letter that's attached in your agenda is what was sent out by Mr. Halverson, along with an estimate budget for 2027. Maybe just to highlight a couple things here, we did just sum up the revenue as just, rather than having membership dues for some and causing a little confusion between that and participant transfers, we just have that sum that would be spread per participant transfers, which on the next sheet you'll see how that is estimated to break out. On the expense side, we have allocation for staff and other administrative support figured in there. On the legal, our assumption in there is that some of these agreements will be wrapped up by year end, so we did lower that a bit. This is an estimate, not for your approval at this time, but we'll plan to bring back a more formal budget to this board later in the year. And then this is just what was accompanied with that letter to show an estimated share, as people need to have their preliminary budgets approved by August 10th. And
Very
this
good.
is, and what I would just add on to that, as far as future projections, working through that, and Mr. Gaddy will share some of the progress with you on that following me. So.
Very good. Sean, you got something for us?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Mahoney, members of the board. Yes, I just got to get the presentation back up here. Yes, so as Maureen just mentioned, we have been working closely with the FAC here over the last couple of months. We've had a couple of meetings to walk through all of the various updates that are ongoing within the financial model and the, the updated user projections. This table here is just meant to represent all of the The updated assumptions that we are incorporating to the financial model update as we look towards, like I mentioned, finalizing the projections for all of the users as we look to go back out and have another round of discussions related to where we're at with the project, and as we look towards ultimately finalizing participation agreements. So a number of the things that are either in progress, incorporated, or ongoing are represented here. We have built the model to include where we are at in the discussions of federal funding. So we all are all well aware of the $150 million that has been secured here this biennium, and that was incorporated to the Series F work plan. In addition to that, we are also looking at what will future projections look like as we consider the additional $300 million plus that has been discussed with our federal delegation and Senator Hova's office. We have worked to incorporate to the model what I would call our baseline spend schedule. The baseline spend schedule is as was submitted to the Water Development Plan to the Department of Water Resources here. Director Hawes gave the overview of all of the needs. Our needs within that were through that submittal. In addition to that, you can see down below, we are also working on the overall programmatic cost update. And so we do expect that we will see some changes that we will want to incorporate to the financial model and the projections, considering an update to the programmatic cost update that will be different than what was submitted to the Water Development Plan. Ms. Storstad did mention our prior series true-up. What I want to mention on this is, we are incorporating a true-up similar to how we have in the past. The biggest difference is in our prior models that we shared with the users and their projections. We weren't as far down the runway of the spend on a local basis. And so I think when we last updated the model and shared numbers with all of the users, the true-up was based on essentially getting the local spending through Series C. We're now all the way through F in terms of allocations and principal allocations that have come through those local financing agreements. And so this is I'll call it a no-cost change to what we prior provided to users as far as their participation and cost of participation in the project. It's just the true-up value has gotten larger as we've gone farther along with users like Fargo, Grand Forks, others having contributed sooner than others. We have updated the model on the MOC-based allocation. Ms. Storstad just shared a table that had those results in terms of how they're being used for the LAWA budget for 2027. We're carrying those allocations forward in all of the model update for the future cost projections. Another ongoing discussion is the OMAR cost finalization. So for those that may not remember, OMAR stands for the operations, maintenance, administration, and reserving requirements of the project. There is ongoing coordination between both the TAC and the FAC related to the update of those OMAR cost assumptions and what will ultimately be included to the projections. I believe it's scheduled or about to be scheduled. There is a working group that's been put together for like an operations subcommittee similar to what was done in the past to relook at those assumptions. And then in addition to that, on more the management and administrative side of the org chart included in the costs associated with that org chart, there is also discussions that have been started at the FAC level as well as between Garrison and LAWA leadership. So that really is a piece that is in progress. I'd say, you can see everything in the green there is things that we have incorporated. The last couple of items here as far as OMAR costs and programmatic cost updates, those are in progress. As far as the programmatic cost update, ourselves working with Black & Veatch have made very good progress on that. I would expect in the next couple of weeks there will be some conversations with LAWA and Garrison leadership as far as where that is at and what we do ultimately end up incorporating to the model and the projections. And lastly, bringing it all together, we do have the functionality built within the model for all of the MOC signers to give them what everyone really wants to see, which is their updated projected cost of participation in the project. We have that mostly, like I said, functionally completed. We just have to wrap up the last few items here over the course of the next month plus or minus in order to get all of that pulled together and have those projections that are ready to provide to the users as we look to go out in another round of discussions here later this year. I mentioned the water development plan submittal and what we have incorporated. You can see this is what was submitted to the water development plan. This was based on the legislative intent that was established in the 23-25 biennium. This is where I mentioned, we submitted this based on the best available dollar amount that we had available, which was that last comprehensive update that did establish legislative intent. This is where we do expect this potentially to change. The one thing I would highlight here, Chair Mahoney, myself, others did participate in conversations with Representative Swantek and Senator Sorvog as we look to make this submittal. There was, I'd say, some pressure to try and drive the state funding request for the next session, just given potential budget constraints, to try and maintain a request moving forward of that $199 million that you see represented there in the 27-29 column. This table is exactly as was provided to the state in the water development plan submittal. So we did make that submittal. What I would say relative to all of the prior conversations that we are having related to either CMAR to speed things up. There was some presentation earlier related to, I will call it the critical path or unconstrained schedule to completion. If we look at this, this spend schedule, there is some disconnect between the two. So we are working within the model to look at, what funding will be needed by when in order to deliver that unconstrained schedule and realize all of the benefits that were highlighted for CMAR and beyond. This is some of that, as we look to incorporate federal funding. Senator Hoeven's office has stated that it is their intent to provide the remainder 300 million plus in funds prior to 2030. So we can start to unconstrain some of that schedule if we do have that funding that comes through here beyond the 150 million that was already provided. And so, we are working to include that functionality and represent how that will start to reduce the cost to the state and the users. This will be continued to look at, like I said, in terms of funding amounts needed by when, as we look to unconstrain the schedule and try and match funding amounts with schedule requirements moving forward. As far as the true up, we are now all the way through, as many know, Series F. And so Fargo, Grand Forks, Valley City, Carrington, Cooperstown, Hillsborough, Mayville, I think I got them all, have all contributed some dollar amount to this point in Series A through F. For the most part, all of those prior contributors, as we could look to allocate costs moving forward and put everyone into an equivalent position related to how we are trying to allocate costs through the cost allocation or the adopted cost allocation model of the project. A number of those users are in an overpayment position. The only one that is not is Valley City, and that primarily is due to Valley City did not participate in Series F most recently. And so we are looking at, as we move forward and we provide projections to the users, how will we redistribute prior cost contributions moving forward in future series. What we're looking at doing is essentially adjusting future series principal balances. So if the model states a certain allocation percentage for someone as a base amount, we would assign a base allocation and then make a plus or minus adjustment for prior series values in order to get everyone into our target position for them according to the adopted project cost allocation model. This just shows in terms of where we are at. If we were to look to allocate costs to all MOC signers as they nominated through the MOC process, where really are we at as far as target allocations versus actual allocations to date? So just to look at the very top there, Fargo, West Fargo, Cass, to date in A through F, of all of the local dollars contributed, Fargo has contributed approximately 80.3% of those dollars. as compared to ultimately when we move forward and as we look to incorporate all the MOCs, a target allocation of 62%. So on all prior series, Fargo has contributed approximately $27.5 million beyond in those local series financings what would be our target allocation for them for prior. So we are looking in a Series G and a Series H future. I don't know what happened there. Did it go backwards or forwards? There we go. In terms of moving forward, some of the direction that has been provided by the FAC to this point is, we're not quite certain when federal funding will come. We're not quite certain in terms of how the bonding discussion will play out at the state level. And so to make sure we don't find ourselves out of whack by over-correcting too quickly some of these allocations, the idea of balancing this out over a couple of the future series financings instead of all in, say, Series G, which would be the local cost share that would come along with next biennium's state dollars. So this is the current proposal that's being included to the model for those future true-up considerations, and this will be, like I said, built into the background of how we provide all of this information to the users for their cost projections moving forward. As far as the programmatic cost update, like I said, there has been a couple of slides today looking at the schedule update and where we're at in a critical path analysis. That critical path analysis, I will say, is being done in an unconstrained basis. So if we were only to get the $199 million from the state that was shown in the water development plan submittal, I think there will be some hard decisions to be made related to what packages proceed when moving forward. I would also say that, the CMAR conversation will help us work through some of that, because you're not looking to go all the way to bid day and do the whole facility at once and potentially have a bust on the cost of the facility related to the funding you have available. So the CMAR will, I think, also help with some of this cost and schedule update considerations that we're looking at. But that schedule, as we are looking at, is unconstrained. And so we will look, like I said, to right size cost outlays related to what we learn, both moving into legislative session, what cost share dollars the state will be considering. If we look at bonding, how does that help us unconstrain the schedule? And then also as we start to consider federal funding and what, on what schedule might we be looking for the future federal dollars, how will all of that play in terms of how we look to outlay those costs. The cost update, last time we looked comprehensively at the total program to completion. That was back in 2022, and so like I mentioned, we're right in the middle of updating that. We'll be bringing that forward here to leadership in the next couple of weeks to review. I mentioned the OMAR cost update that was last looked at, and there's a working group that's being put together to go through those assumptions. And then, as mentioned, the funding analysis and the schedule alternatives and how all of that comes together, and how the CMAR does help us, I'll say, bridge the gap on where we might have differences in some of these different assumptions. So I guess, Paul, I know you're still online, and previously at FAC, you had presented this exact slide, so I'd ask if you have anything you'd like to add or as far as color to the discussion.
Sean, that's a pretty good summary, but I do, just to emphasize the point that you made, I think an advantage of CMAR is there's at least 3 different funding mechanisms that we may need to guide the project to kind of wrap around in terms of when money is available. And our CMAR would give us a few more options by which we could kind of match our schedule and our spend rate to the money that is being made available to us from the federal funding and from the state and local funding.
Thank you, Paul. So last slide I had is what we're working on to bring this all together. Some of you may recall when we last went out for user discussions I got a trigger finger today, sorry. When we last went out for discussions with the users in 2024, we had provided everyone a rather succinct overview of what their projections will look like in the form of individual user financial summaries. We have also mocked these up and reviewed them with FAC. You'll see we've got some orange values to be updated just based on all of my comments made here to this point. We're working on that finalization, but we have provided good drafts of what this will look like and include as far as reminding users what they had nominated for, where we're at and our funding progress and what their expected cost of participation is to look like as we look at current funding and future funding considerations and outlaying that all into projections similar to what we had done prior. So this work is all ongoing in anticipation of multiple things coming together and being prepared for those discussions with potential users here towards the end of the year. With that, I'd stand for any questions.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Kip, are you ready to tell us a construction update?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Board. Have a couple slides for you. So we're still having a great year with little rainfall, so it's allowing us to put a lot of pipe in the ground. And we do appreciate some Lake Agassiz members. They joined us for the Garrison Board meeting, and we took a tour, got to see a lot of the sites. And Mayor Erdman also joined the tour, and he actually participated in that with us, so it was really good. We have over 8 miles in the ground this year, just alone, so it's been great. So as a reminder, 59 miles are under contract, and 38 miles are in the ground. On the screen, the green contracts up on your screen are completed, and the orange ones are active. This chart keeps moving as they put more pipe in the ground. 5C is finally, we have all the pipe in the ground on 5C. The next step there is to start filling that and hydrostatic test that. 6A is nearly done, and so after 6A is done, that crew will skip over to 6C. 6B and C, we have 2.5 miles in the ground on that project. They just started this year. And then 7A, we are just starting to get pipe for that project, and so we'll start seeing some pipe put in the ground on that one. And then as a reminder, up in your right-hand corner, 5A, B, and D are completed. We have a 550-foot tunnel on 6B. We are approximately 305 feet through that tunnel, so good success there. We've hit a few boulders, but we've managed to deal with them. We are, let's see, what do I got next? So any questions with construction? This fall, if you want to come out, we can give you a tour again this fall if you would like. Just give us a call. And then just some engineering updates. Today at 4 o'clock, we are opening contract 1 on the bio-to-water treatment plant. The engineer's estimate's $20 million. We've had several contractors asking questions. I think as far as prime bidders, anywhere from 5 to 8 are registered. That doesn't mean they're all going to bid, but things look good. And so after 4 o'clock, we'll get those wrote down, and we'll get those over to Spencer, and he can share those with you. And then a week from now, or roughly 10 days from now, hopefully, we'll have an engineer's recommendation, and we would like you guys in Garrison Diversion to act on that. Some other ongoing things, we're continuing to look at the McCluskey Canal evaluation, looking at the water quality and any hydraulic improvements that we need to make. Paul talked about and Kurt talked about the bio-to-water treatment plant. Final design task order is going to be coming your way this fall, along with your CMAR discussion. Power supply coordination, that is continuing on with Western Area Power, Central Power, the Bureau of Reclamation, Garrison Diversion and Consultants. We're working monthly coordination meetings on that. And then Sean pointed out that we're working on program schedule and cost and cash flow. Oh, I thought I had one more on there. Mr. Chairman, you talked about the right-of-way and easements. Last time we spoke, we had 2 remaining easements. We're down to 1. And he came in this week, and I feel like in a week or two, after we make some adjustments, he will sign. So I'm hoping by the end of August that we'll have that all wrapped up.
Great work, Kip. I really like that you're working with the guy and he's coming to us, but that'll be great to have 100%.
Yes.
Appreciate that.
Yep, we're going to celebrate after we have the 100%. And then just lastly, this fall, we're hoping to advertise and bid 2 more pipeline contracts with the Bureau of Reclamation, the federal funding. The Bureau of Reclamation is still trying to figure out how to get the money to us, whether it's a new agreement or use the existing agreement. The last I heard is that they think they can pass that money on to us with our existing mRNA agreement, and we were supposed to hear something the end of July or early August, so hopefully any day we'll hear on how that'll happen.
Very good. That's good news. Thank you. New business. Spencer, you're up. Lawa Lobbying Services Procurement Strategy. We got to be done by noon, so you better speak quickly, eh?
Sorry. Excuse me here. Get to the agenda item for you. Chair Mahoney, members of the board, so Garrison Diversion and Lake Agassiz Water Authority have had kind of a long-standing relationship where we partnered on lobbying services via a cost share between Garrison Diversion and LAWA. One of my first couple of weeks got word that Garrison Diversion has hired their own distinct and separate lobbyist. In conversations with the general manager at Garrison Diversion, I kind of just asked, is there a vision that we're going to continue partnering on lobbying services? Is there an intentional effort to go your own way? I was informed that they intend to go their own way as it comes to lobbying services for the upcoming legislative cycle. In speaking with board leadership and senior administrators with Grand Forks and Fargo, came to the consensus that, number one, it is necessary for LAWA to have an official lobbyist for the upcoming legislative session to advocate for its interests, and that, number two, that LAWA would like to continue working with Terry Efforts, who was the previous lobbyist we partnered with of Integrity Public Affairs, so that we can provide a level of consistency and familiarity in Bismarck this upcoming legislative session. I think one thing to note is that she is also the registered lobbyist right now for the City of Fargo. The City of Fargo is in a current RFP process, which they should have a decision on August 31st from the RFP documents, and that there is probably an opportunity for some efficiencies as far as just cost and effort if contingent upon Fargo's action, if they did decide to move forward with Miss Efforts, that we could, between LAWA and the City of Fargo, come to some sort of administrative services agreement. Have talked to City Administration and the new Mayor Boucher of Fargo, and they're kind of aligned and on board with that sort of a strategy should that come to fruition. And really the reason we're looking for action from the board to concur with the strategy is so that between now and the next meeting, if there is that concurrence with the City of Fargo, that we could then begin negotiating in good faith. So want to have the support of the board before we would begin negotiating on that potential administrative services agreement if it's to come to be. This has been reviewed by FAC and they are supportive of the strategy. Would welcome any questions.
And Mayor Boucher's in the room, but it's going to be a cost saving for us because the City of Fargo is going to have the cost, and then we do part of the cost, but she's lobbying for both of us. So to us, we feel there's a cost saving working with the city. So we feel favorable on this particular aspect. And Terry Efforts has done a good job for the City of Fargo and lobbying for us and also for LAWA. So we think it's a good win-win. So, any questions? Keith, did you have?
I was going to make a motion if there was.
You want to make the motion? Go ahead.
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Wyszynski, you have your later.
Well, I was just going to vote, but I think we agree. I don't know if any of the rest of us have a lobbyist, so we don't have anybody we can throw in there to help, so that you've already got the overhead taken care of. We'll be happy to have Fargo do that. Obviously, disappointing not to be able to continue to share those efforts with Garrison, but that was their decision, so we'll have to make the most of it.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Schuler,
Yes.
Wyszynski,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Karlsruhe,
Yes.
Dardis,
Yes.
Erdman,
Yes.
Itzo,
Yes.
Mahoney,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Morlock,
Yes.
Nielsen,
Yes.
Schmaltz.
Yes.
And Schmidt.
Yes.
Your motion's carried.
Amendment to number 4 to client, A2S letter agreement. Spencer?
Chair Mahoney, members of the authority, as part of your guys' strategy in the process of hiring the executive director, you guys extended a previous task order with A2S, Brent Bogar's contract, for an extra $40,000. There was an expiration date of that of June 30th, 2026. Been working closely with Brent, did a review and an analysis, and there's about $5,800 left on that task order, so recommending an extension to September 30th. And just full disclosure, I've had a conversation with Mr. Bogar about, there's about 20 hours left. How are we going to prioritize those 20 hours? As that's not really a whole lot over 2 months. And so I think we're going to shift strategy from, hey, Spencer onboarding myself into this position and more prepping for the legislative cycle, staying informed via the fact tag and board meetings, and then helping us formulate financial plan. Moving forward, I would anticipate that we will bring forward another task order similar to this one for the legislative session leading up to, during, and then the month after, from between October 1 and May 31st. Details to be determined from there, but wanted to let you know that that's kind of the long-term strategy with that. And obviously with the lobbying services and Mr. Bogar and the legislative session, this is one of the things we do really need to talk with Garrison Diversion about at that leadership meeting, so that we can get aligned and be in lockstep as much as can reasonably be possible at the legislative session. So,
Thank you. Any questions? We have a motion.
I'd move approval, and I don't think Spencer needs any more onboarding. I'm doing pretty good, so it's a good movement.
Is there a second?
Second, Schmidt.
I'll second. Schuler.
Roll call?
Schuler.
Yes.
Wachensky.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Karlsruhe.
Yes.
Dardis.
Yes.
Erdman.
Yes.
Itzo.
Yes.
Mahoney.
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Morlock.
Yes.
Nielsen.
Yes.
Schmaltz.
Yes.
And Schmidt.
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Thank you. Virtual board meeting coming up on October 12th. We'll inform you on that. That's just to move ahead of the contract, so we'll set that up, and Spencer will set that up. As a board, I want to thank you for your discipline today. Mayor Boucher was here and saw unanimous votes on everything, and he doesn't always get that when he has his commission meetings. So just wanted to show him 13 people can work well together, so I appreciate that on all your votes. Anything else?
I think I'm going to vote down adjournment now, just to.
If there's no other business, we would stand adjourned. Thank you.